Welcome to the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. Brought to you by Blue Sky Business Consulting. We discuss 5 questions in about 15 minutes.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Team Engagement Podcast. Always excited to spend just a few minutes with you, and we are excited to talk about the Season 5 that we've just finished and wrapped up. It is kind of the recap episode, and it's been a few weeks since we've released an episode because we had some guests that weren't able to make it at the last minute, and so that kind of made it a little bit interesting. But anyway, excited to have this moment to kind of recap the season. This is a fun time of year for me personally because it gives me a chance to reflect on all the guests that have joined us, talk about what they've said, and kind of recap things. As everyone who listens or watches this fairly regularly, I ask the same questions of all the guests. And that way we get different perspectives on what they think on the different questions. So I like to take this last episode of the kind of the season recap and answer the questions myself as a business consultant, how I would advise clients to answer each of those questions and deal with those different situations. So question number 1, how do leaders know when to pivot in their companies? Now, this is a tricky one because it really depends on what exactly needs to change. Obviously, something is off. You as the business owner or leader are seeing something is off within the business or within the company. So the first step is to clearly identify what it is that you think is off. Do you have a product that's not selling as well? Is there some advertising that's not working like you feel like it should? Or maybe there's a marketing plan that needs to be updated. Is it possible that you've got some employee engagement issues, or maybe there's a problem within the culture, or maybe there's a cash flow problem, maybe it's a financial type problem? Whatever it is that you feel is off, it's really important to clearly identify those elements that might be causing you to feel that way. Check with your other leaders, check with your employees, maybe even check with your customers and see if you can clearly identify what it is that needs to change. And once you've identified that, then you'll know better how to pivot or make some changes within your company. Question number 2, share one of your company's core values and how that value helps you make decisions. Now, this is a really interesting question because we don't often talk about values and how they affect our decision-making, but they do make a difference. Whether it's a conscious effort or whether it's an unconscious effort, knowing what your values are will determine how you make decisions. It's really important to clearly identify what your values are, especially those core values. The number doesn't really matter. Some people say it should be 2 or 3. Some people say it should be 5. I'm one that says identify at least 2 or 3, but maybe up to 4 or 5, depending on what's important to you and what's important to your company. But make sure you clearly define those and that you know what those values look like in real life business situations. For example, integrity is one that often comes up a lot. I think that's great. I'm glad that there are businesses that want to have integrity in their business, but that's really vague. How is integrity going to actually look like? Is it going to be honesty with the customer? Is it going to be doing the right thing at the right time and not being reactive to the client? Or is it being proactive to help the client? There's different ways to really be clear on what we mean by integrity. So I'm one that when I'm working with the clients and they throw integrity out as one of their values, I ask them to drill down a little bit more. Let's keep going. Let's see, what is it about integrity that you like? What does it really mean? Because unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, everybody has a slightly different definition of different words. Integrity is very, very broad. So a lot of different people have a lot of different ideas on what it means to have integrity. So it's really important to be clear. Of course, once you're clear on that, then everybody kind of knows, okay, this is what the owner means by integrity. You might also say that it is a really effective foundation for delegation. I am a big proponent of this. You as a business leader can't do everything. At least you shouldn't. And if you're trying to do everything, then you're not effectively running your company. If you're relying on other people to help you run the company, it's important for them to make decisions on their own. But they can't do that if they're constantly trying to figure out, well, what would Jennifer do in this situation? Or what would Bill do? Or Jose, or whoever it is that's leading the company? If they're always trying to figure out what you're going to be doing or how you would make that decision in that situation, they're always going to be running to you, and you will become this funnel where everything gets sucked into, and it takes a while to get it to come through. So the best way to avoid that little snag is to clearly identify the values, instill them throughout the company so that everybody understands what those values are defined as and how they look in real life situations and business situations. And then your people can make better decisions that will be properly aligned with your vision for the company. So question number 3, what's one tip for finding and hiring talent? I am a big proponent of not asking too many questions about their resume. You can look at their resume. You can read, you know what they're saying. All you really need to do is just verify that they have the skills that you are looking for. Once you've verified that, and you can do that on most resumes, when you bring them in for the interview, ask questions about culture. Certainly, you can talk a little bit about their skills and their history and ask some questions and get to know them a little bit. But don't be afraid to ask questions pertaining to culture. And here's a big hint. We just talked about values. Take some of those real life business situations and pose them to the candidate. Ask them, how would you handle this situation? And then provide that situation and let them see how they align with the culture. If they're aligning with how you would handle it, that's a good candidate to consider. If not, maybe continue the search a little bit. Question number 4, how do you identify and develop strengths within your company? And this is a very broad question, and it was deliberately so because I like to hear how different leaders and different business owners respond to the question, because it could be talking about the strength of the company, meaning what do you as a company do well? It could also mean, how do you identify those individuals in your company and their individual strengths? It's really important that you do both. Identify what the strengths of the company, but also be willing to identify the strengths and the talents of your individual employees. It is so common that you will start with an employee with a certain position in mind with them, and they'll do a great job in that position. But as you get to know them and identify and then develop their talents, you find that they have ways to contribute that you may not have realized before. So always be willing to identify and develop strengths within your company. I am a big proponent of using assessments to help do that for a couple of reasons. A lot of times, if you do good assessments, if you use ones that are really popular out there, those are almost always based on scientific research, and they become very reliable, very clear on how they define those different strengths and whatnot. And also, it'll provide a common language or framework for you and your teammates and company to be able to refer to different kinds of talents that are used within the company. So those are a couple of different tips on how you can identify and develop strengths. Now, the last question number 5, I always have fun with this question. I added it just a little bit different than previous seasons. All of the years that I've been doing the podcast now, and we're well over 400 episodes, which I'm very excited about. But well beyond that, all those years I've asked, tell us about your first job. And it's a fascinating discussion to have and to listen to all the different ways that people have started their businesses or have started their first jobs clear back to when they were teenagers, or maybe they were just coming out of high school, whatever it is. But this last year, I also, for those who are interested, some of the guests opted for this option, which was to tell us about a favorite baseball memory. So I'm going to share with you my favorite baseball memory. I've got a couple of them, but I'm just going to share one. And it happened just this year. It was my wife for Christmas last year, bought a couple of tickets to go see my favorite team, the Phillies, when they were in Denver playing the Colorado Rockies. And Denver is not too far, of course, from here in Utah, where I'm at. So we took a long weekend over, as it turned out, over our anniversary weekend. And we went to a Rockies game, and it was a great game. Sorry to the Rockies fans out there, but the Phillies were behind and then made a great ninth inning comeback and won the game and got to see all sorts of things. Bryce Harper hit a home run. It was fun to watch the comeback. It was just a really fun game to be at. And there were lots of Phillies fans right around us. So there was a big cheering section for the Phillies. So that's become a very happy memory relating to baseball. Well, that's enough of the baseball stuff. Again, I want to thank all of the guests who have taken time out of their very busy schedules to share their insights about business, about leadership, and how we can help each other function better in a work environment. I also want to take a minute to thank my team, who have always done such a great job putting out the videos as well as the podcasts. on YouTube, throughout all the podcast platforms, everywhere. They do a great job. So I want to thank them for their efforts as well throughout the year. And I also want to thank all of you who take time to either watch the videos or to listen to the podcast. Thank you so much for taking time to listen or watch the Team Engagement Podcast. My whole hope with the Team Engagement Podcast is to help leaders at all levels become just a little bit better, to come up with some ideas on things that they can do to lead better, to be more successful in their work and in their company, and help all of us to become better people in society and just learn to get along a little bit better and have a better experience at work. Thanks again to everybody for all their participation. I look forward to season number 6. It's coming up here in just a few weeks. This episode that I'm recording right now is going to be released at the very end of December here in 2024. And then we'll start season 6 in January of 2025. Very excited. We're going to have some brand new guests, of course, all new questions, and we'll have some returning guests. And I'm sure we'll have a few special episodes as well, where we'll review other podcasts, or maybe it's a book, or who knows what will happen. But that's part of the fun of doing this, is I never know what to expect. It's going to be a great experience. So again, thanks to all of you. I wish all of you happy holidays. Please stay safe, and let's make 2025 a great year. Thanks so much for joining us again on the Team Engagement Podcast. Have a great day.
This is Shawn Richards with the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. For more ideas, go to teamengagementpodcast.com. We also invite you to follow or subscribe to our podcast wherever you may be listening or watching. Is your business thriving? Go to tbs-score.com to find out. Thanks for joining us today. Have a great day.